Alright, let's keep the push up, shall we? The reason doesn't matter much now, does it? The blood is clear proof she was there. The blood proves no such thing. If you're going to be that frivolous, I shall respond adequately. That blood, you cannot prove it got on the display case that recently. It could have been there for years, for all you know. Nonsense! Then what about the cut on the victim's finger? My position on that has been clear from the beginning. The victim received that cut during her struggle with you. Therefore, I pose this to you again. Can you even provide a remotely rational reason for her to visit that place just before the incident? That's the stupid thing, Victoria. Her blood was found on the handle, but not on the blade. What did she cut herself on? What did she cut herself on? A really sharp wit. If you cannot address that, it's not worth debating the myriad of other problems. Fine, I'll take on any challenges you got. It shouldn't be too hard. I can give a decent reason for her to go down there. It'll pass. I remember her actions. It should be possible to link something to that display case. The victim went to the display case on the lower floor because of this. Need to remember precisely what happened downstairs. Is it the knife? No? Seem to be some signs suggesting the gun was inside the display case. It seems a little odd now that we know the victim bought it. Brought it. The case must have been some left over. This case must have been some left over from the former tenant. It wouldn't contain a recently acquired item. You may draw this weapon if you are truly prepared to kill. The inscription fortunately fits another piece of evidence as well. The knife the victim carried with her. She must have fetched it from that case downstairs and left her unneeded gun behind. Which, by the way, is pretty odd on the victim's part. There are still plenty of items to sell up here upstairs. Honestly, why go fetch that so far in advance? Unless, of course, she needed it for a certain murder scheme. The reason this appears odd to you is because it never happened. And yet it might explain another part of this case that had seemed out of place from the beginning. There was another thing Mrs. Holden had with her that could connect her to the display case. The key. Yeah. I'm sure you remember this. That key certainly left an impression at the beginning of this trial. What about it? We're not talking about that topic. Weren't you curious at all? If this isn't the key to the study, then what is it for? The case happens to have a lock. If the key fits, then you'd have your proof that Mrs. Holden recently dealt with this display case. You love gambling on the evidence, don't you? Let's do it then. Your luck will run out eventually. We will do no such thing. Excuse me, again. You already went against my advice one time. Observe where it has led us. Have you still not learned this simple lesson? Detain Aurelia at all, and she will find another way to prolong this trial. Investigate the lower floor again. It's a complete waste of time. Sounds to me like you know I'm right about this. Well, I figured you might. After all, it's very likely the plaintiff wanted to remove this key from the body to hide the connection. It would happen to explain the locked room problem. Are you talking about the fact that the key to the study is still missing? Of course. If you think about who could have taken it, there are only so many options. You already know the plaintiff took the spray from the body. If she really poisoned the display case, it would make sense to try and hide the connection. However, she messed up and took the wrong key instead, leaving us with a bit of a mystery. No proof. You can't show that happened. Maybe not, but with that possibility in mind, Are you really in a position to believe? Are you really in a position to refuse letting us verify this? Though it would look pretty bad for you. That's inconsequential. I assure you, we will win. I will listen to my lawyer. There will be no second pointless trip to the second floor.
Objection!
You're straight up obstructing the trial, then.
Seriously?
You, of all people, complain about obstruction. How many ridiculous theories have you concocted this far that ended up making no difference? Imagine if the police searched your house on such flimsy grounds. You have zero proof any of this is plausible enough to warrant this. Well, certainly rather speculative. I'll be honest, Miss Chase, even without the detective's testimony, it seems... Well, we're talking about a poison that somehow wasn't detected during an autopsy. Unless you can provide evidence that the victim went downstairs or was actually poisoned, does not hold much water. It's dead on arrival is what it is. I was going to prove it using this key. Even if that key fits the display case, it still would not prove when she actually last used it. Could have been a week ago, with her then simply leaving it in her pocket. And what about her gun? Are you also going to say that has been down there for a week? Why wouldn't I? The sole reason you gave for why she might need it today is based on another unfounded theory. You could very well have fetched the knife from somewhere upstairs. Even if she got it from downstairs, that could have occurred ages ago. Even if it happened today, that could have occurred without her getting any cuts or being poisoned. You've established exactly 0 parts of that theory of yours. This is some high-grade BS. How am I supposed to prove things if you keep blocking literally everything? How do I put this? Not our problem. Adequately put. If your theories remain this inconsequential, it cannot be helped they are not worth exploring. Wake me up in the unlikely case of you managing to prove anything worthwhile. So you basically want me to either show actual proof the victim got poisoned, or prove she went downstairs and got cut. All without being allowed to call anyone to the stand or another trip to the lower floor. You're in no position to make demands, so yes. How aggravating. But she's sadly right. The suggestion still lacks any solid ground. It won't be pressed to give me any more info unless I prove at least some parts of my theory. What if what I need does not require new testimony or the elevator? It might still be possible to produce. The elevator is in Ms. Holden's control, so there's no choice there. Any trivial check that can be performed on this floor? Might be able to get the judge on board with that. Fine, I'll prove it. Prove what, Miss Chase? Good question. Which part might I be able to prove? Poisoning or the downstairs got cut? I mean, realistically, the way we can prove poison is by, like, poisoning ourselves, which is not ideal, but got cut mere moments before the crime. Can we try that? Which focusing on proving the victim got cut by the case would be better. Demonstrate this happened today, just before the crime. It would become more difficult to deny that the 2 murders have a connection, which might just be enough to force new testimony. As for how to prove that, it will come down to somehow showing the victim got his cut before entering the study. Finding her blood on something else might help. Just got to hope it also narrows the time frame. I'm gonna prove the victim went downstairs and got cut only a little while before the incident. The evidence for that... Alright, we're thinking... In the court record, not in the court record. I don't think it's in the court record. Required proof isn't in the court record. Don't think you're meant to say that part out loud. I didn't say the evidence doesn't exist. This one will come down to another gamble. If I assume my theory is right, there's a very high chance that proof exists at a certain place. If the evidence isn't in the court record, then where in the world is it? I'm gonna reveal that right now. Proof you're looking for is... Okay, I think it's clicked where this logic's going. Let's look at the choices quick. Study, display room, justice room, this very room. I had to step away for a bit. I was processing this. And I think I get where it's going in terms of proving that she cut herself on that case before she came back up. I think we're gonna say, did she leave any blood behind on the podium, the auction podium, where the judge is now? The proof is in this very room. Are you serious, or did you just opt to go for the most dramatic option? Big talk. I'm sure you can point out exactly where it is, right? Didn't have to ask me. The proof we're looking for is right here. Also, shout out to the fully assembled trial grounds. Gonna point at the judge.
Take that!
Okay, got it. Make sure you hear me out before you pass any judgment. If I'm right about my theory, then you will find the victim's blood on your gavel, Your Honor. Order. Miss Chase, I do not know where you are going with this, but I suggest you tread lightly. There's a reason I said you should hear me out first. We're all here today because of Miss Holden organizing an auction. It is that auction that took place just before the crime. During it, the victim may have touched the various auction items that she was selling. But more importantly, that gavel you borrowed from her, she had definitely been handling it for most of the event. If there is blood on it, that would prove that the victim was already wounded beforehand. The same chronological fallacy that applies to the display case would also apply to the gavel. Supposing we were to find blood on it, what proves it is recent and not from some day in the past? Words of your own client. What? I gave nothing away. What'd you say again when you took the stand? You can thank me for everything in this auction being impeccably clean. That would no doubt have included the most important tool of the auction, the gavel. Let me take this chance to thank you for a job well done. I see. That means any blood on this gavel would be very recent. What a shame. I really liked how this one felt. Fortunately, I always have a spare with me. And why borrow it at all? A true gavel connoisseur, I guess. It shouldn't be asking too much to have Dr. Hellinger run a quick blood check on it. And while we're at it, check all the other items that were auctioned off. Hey, I won this fair and square. I ain't giving it back. Nobody asked you to return your stuff. The thing is, we roughly know in what order these items were sold. We saw Mrs. Holden presenting most of them after her daughter made sure they were clean. Which means any blood on them could be used to narrow down the time frame Mrs. Holden got that cut. You don't even have to leave the room for this. Surely there are no objections. My stance on this should be evident, of course it is. If the court wishes to waste its time regardless, I shall take a nap. Just you wait. Sooner or later I'll give you that well-earned wake-up call. It appears this is the most readily available way to test the defendant's theory. Please do the necessary checks, Dr. Hellinger. Alright, Celis. You do have a thing for making up theories without any verification, Aurelia Chase. Let me just say, your method is objectively guaranteed to backfire eventually. I will allow myself to say something for the record as well. I don't care. Dr. Hellinger will only report the results of this most recent check. She will not testify about anything beyond that. Stubborn about that one, huh? Whatever, let's just hear what she found first. That should show how much time I'm actually wasting. Was there any blood present on the items we gave you? Regardless of what it means, the following is what I can say. No blood whatsoever was found on the sold auction items. As for the gavel, there was a tiny amount of Melanie Holden's blood on it. It's barely perceptible with just your eyes. There was actually blood on it? Oh dear. Court's in recess for 2 minutes while I go wash my hands. Not on the auction items, but on the gavel. I think we can deduce what this means. It says Holden must have received that cut just before the auction went on break. Which, you will remember, is when she went to fetch that knife, and then showed it to us. That is mere moments before she headed to the study. It tracks perfectly with my theory. It's a moderately valid conclusion. However, there's something else I'd like to note about your theory.
Objection.
Haven't I been clear enough? Do not say anything unnecessary. You do not have the permission.
Objection.
This is getting ridiculous. If it's relevant, you might as well say it. If Miss Preston does not need my help, so be it. Don't misunderstand. You should be glad I'm currently not officially on the stand. Don't like the sound of that. Is this just another trap I'm walking into? Oh boy. I'm back. Court is back in session. Where were we? Let me sum up what's been established now. Says Holden got that cut while getting the knife. And the display case is the only reasonable spot it could have been stored. There's no more room to deny it. Nothing else we found would match that cut. No more objections? Well, isn't that a nice change of pace? So let me get this straight. Mrs. Holden went to the justice room right before she died. Later on, Mr. Garn just so happened to be killed in that very same room. No matter what you think of my theory, can we really still say there's definitely no connection? You need to know when to stop doubling down. Not forgotten. I still know what you dared to imply earlier. The part where I'm the only one with access to the lower floor. So much for forcing the topic to be about that second murder. The only one with access aside from Mrs. Holden, but close enough. Do you deny it? You really don't want to say it yourself, do you? You'd basically have to accuse me to be this poisoner. Well, you'd be the one most likely to have been aware of the victim's plans for that day. You know, her whole plan to frame me, I still maintain that happened. However, perhaps that plan didn't fail, due to simple bad luck. Possible someone in the know intentionally sabotaged it for their own ends. If you poisoned her in the middle of that frame-up, I was guaranteed to turn into the prime suspect. So you actually have the nerve to say it. How to respond to that? I think we are off base here. Like, we're right in bringing the two crimes together. And I kind of get it. I think we're objectively barking up the wrong tree accusing Susan of killing her mother. What reason would I have to kill her? Unbelievable you'd go there. Yeah, like, this is a line that we are crossing that I don't necessarily like. Order, please. She is right, however. You are going to have to provide something here, defendant. These people do not just kill their own parents for no reason, I'd like to believe. I think you are vastly underselling the grudges that can run in families. If it's an explicit motive you want, I can give it to you. A piece of evidence shows why you needed to kill your mother. Business list? That's not necessarily the most... How's that for motive? Terrible. Genuinely don't know. What? It's the tender. Oh, it's the tender mender. Present to you one of the cleanest and most straightforward motives in existence. The cleaning spray? Still mine. How do you actually have that? You dropped it. More importantly, this isn't any cleaning spray. This is Tender Mender, a special product only handed out to clients of a certain loan shop. Oh, right, I forgot it's from fucking Tender Lender. If this is truly yours, as you just said, then you must be one of those clients. I hear this Tender Lender is quite infamous for charging ridiculous rates. I've heard the name before. It's run by that blue-suited lawyer. I think, oh no! Oh no! It's actually run by the mob, from what I've heard. Isn't it true that you've gambled yourself into debt, Miss Holden? Ooh, that's... so what? What does that have to do with any of this? Money is one of the most classic motives in the world. Why would I kill my mother for that? Life insurance? She had a high-paying job. She even let me help out as an assistant. She did everything in her power to help me get out of this debt. And you're saying I killed her? Even if it's that true, loan sharks can be very impatient. It's likely made very clear that you definitely would not want to miss any payments. So you didn't only need money, you needed it fast. Mother's debt would let you inherit her assets. Oh no. Imagine that would have given you quite a boost. Apparently that still wasn't enough, was it? Slow down. Where the hell is this going? It's going all in. I don't plan on losing like you clearly did. Mother's assets still weren't enough to cover whatever debt you had accumulated. What better way to make a quick buck than a good old-fashioned lawsuit? That's not... Why is this happening? What in the world, Miss Chase? Are you saying this trial was part of the plan, too? See? In a weird way, I didn't feel comfortable accusing her of killing her mom, but this is actually falling into place and starting to make sense. Because it's circling back to the fact that this whole trial, if there was a big frame-up, a trial here feels a part of wrapping up whatever frame-up is going on here. And we've looped the whole trial being a real slapdash, slap together, you can't leave until we get this done sort of deal. And it's really... Damn. There might actually be something to that. It's time to pull back the curtain on all of these oh-so-convenient coincidences. Let me ask you something, Your Honor. What brought you here today? Did you just decide to visit this auction on a random whim? Well, no. That's not quite how it happened. We and a few bailiffs received some sort of invitation to this event. An advertisement, I suppose. Mentioned there would be free food, so it sounded quite nice. See? Don't you think it's too convenient that we had a workable courtroom, a detective, a lawyer, and a judge? All of them just happening to be present. This whole trial was carefully arranged to try and push off your debt on me. Thoughts, Victoria? You're gonna shove it all aside, like you always do. Slander, all of it. Just one moment, Miss Chase. I understand that you claim Mrs. Holden planned to kill and frame you. Now you are saying that this plan was used by the plaintiff to poison her mother and frame you. What would have happened if Mrs. Holden had actually managed to kill you? I'm no legal expert here, but does that really stand in the way of a lawsuit? I mean, I'm currently being framed on behalf of a dead person, right? Imagine it's possible to sue a dead person as well, under the right circumstances. She probably would have tried to go ahead with it anyway, before my corpse was even cold. Questionable, like, that's a very good counter-argument that I don't have an answer for. This answer doesn't feel right. That's a good counter-argument. I don't have an answer for it. I see. It would be quite cold-blooded indeed. There are various factors to consider. It is indeed possible to sue a dead person's estate as well. like, the cold outcome here. Though I am thinking of an idea of a really cold outcome here. Being that if Susan really arranged this, Susan poisons her mom anyways. So whether Aurelia lives or dies, it doesn't really matter. If Aurelia dies, it's better because you can sue Aurelia's estate because Aurelia killed her mom. If she lives, you sue her anyway for killing her mom. And yeah, profit. That's cold. But you are the one who shot my mother. You're the only one who could have done it. Even if all these plans you keep coming up with were true, what does it matter? It's the same as before. Never happened. Even if it were true that only I could have shot her, this scenario is quite different. For example, what if the victim had already died of the poison at that time? I'm sure shooting a corpse can be a crime in its own right. It's not murder. Either way, the victim was going to die from poison no matter what. I cannot be held liable for any financial losses. Those would have been inevitable already. Alright, Victoria, what you got? Do you have an actual counter-argument, or are you just going to shove it all aside? I must commend you for finally presenting a modicum of challenge. Brace yourselves, here comes the usual. Spinoza urged us not to laugh, not to weep, not to hate, but to try and understand human actions. Unfortunately, even I have begun to struggle understanding you, Aurelia. You did not merely elect to accuse my client of killing her very own mother. You had to utilize an appallingly preposterous version of events on top of that. I will kindly return us from this fantastical world of your mind into the real world. Dr. Hellinger, I grant you permission to clarify your autopsy, but no more than that. Did that have to be this dramatic? Well, I'm glad I can finally defend my findings. My investigations are more thorough than you gave me credit for, defendant. Naturally, it was a concerning data point that the sweat on the victim's head had no clear cause. I suspected some kind of substance might be a factor, not unlike you did. Which is why I did perform a thorough analysis of the victim's system for dangerous poisons. And? Don't like to assume, but I think you already know what I'm going to say. Human body is complex, and it would be hard to have absolute certainty about all substances. However, the technology I'm using is cutting edge, and is capable of detecting any known poison. My autopsy is accurate. There is objectively no way for this theory to be valid. Welp, thanks for coming. I knew it was coming, but... damn it. There it is. Of course she was talking nonsense. Please remain quiet. Alright. This is getting to be a bit much. I'm hoping... Miss Chase, I don't see how you possibly could, but do you have a response to this? Give her a moment. I'm sure a brain like hers will require some time to process this. She tends to have some difficulties returning to reality from her fantasy world. Can't let this end here. I have to drop this accusation. I'm pretty much out. No, I'm not done here. There's an explanation for this. How in the world? The detective just confirmed there were no traces of poison in the victim. Are you going to claim she's in on the plan as well? It admittedly came to mind, but now it strikes me as a bad idea. The fact Dr. Hellinger detected no poison does not contradict my theory because, she didn't manage to detect the specific poison that was used? The detective just confirmed that she checked for every poison with modern technology. Now hold on just a second. That's not what she said. She stated that her technology checked for any known poison. There'd be some limits there. What if an unknown poison was used? You can hear the sighs from the gallery, but I'll have to bear it. An unknown, undetectable poison. You are truly outdoing yourself. Ignoring that we are not now in the realm of fourth-rate mystery, this is a probatio diabolica. It's a claim that cannot be disproven. There is no conceivable way this will be tolerated. but the weird symptoms still haven't been explained. I think the line should be drawn in here. The existence of such a poison is unlikely to begin with. Not only that, but it is not clear to me where the plaintiff, an ordinary civilian, would have gotten such a thing from. I know it sounds ridiculous, but there has to be a way to give an explanation for this. Think. If I can't directly show the poison's existence, I need to explain where it came from. Where would Miss Holden even have found it? See, I thought for a while that the knife itself was poison, but the knife is obviously related to Aurelia, but I don't know. Like the judge said, she isn't anyone that would have access to something like that, and Aurelia is clearly related to whatever Dr. Lee had going on in some historical way. Hold up. Someone with access to... Is there really no way a secret poison could have found its way here? There's something you're still unaware of, Your Honor. May have an explanation for how the plaintiff got her hands on this unknown poison. I won't lie, Miss Chase, I have no idea how you would even begin to explain this. What is your proposed source for this extraordinary poison? We're narking our FBI man? Yep, we're narking our FBI man. Ouch, my head. Feels like a lot of things just clicked into place all at once. Our FBI man who has been monitoring this place for who knows how long, who also has ties to Dr. Lee, or at least is seriously looking into Dr. Lead. Are you going to provide an explanation? As I have mentioned, Aurelia cannot be expected to work at an average speed. Oh, you better strap in. Once I get started on this one, you'll struggle to keep up. No more stalling, Miss Chase. Right, so. There are only so many places a completely unknown poison could come from. To explain this, I'll have to talk about something I was informed about during the last recess. About the true identity of a certain Mr. Kova. The sweets merchant from the entrance. That guy? The thing is, Mr. Kova is no mere civilian. He's an agent sent by the FBI to keep tabs on this place. How did you manage to learn that? Well, I have a source that said he told it to them. Oh boy, let me guess. Lillian. This is nothing but hearsay. You are simply trying to concoct your next fantasy. Should Mr. Kova himself be able to confirm this? Thing is, he'll probably deny it. He announced as much. Mr. Gart was with them when this conversation happened. And now he's dead. How convenient that we can't ask him either. Maybe we should look into that, but... Oh wait, maybe I was somebody else. Mr. Polly was hiding behind. He was present when this conversation happened and must have caught the gist of it. Mr. Polly, can you please come forward and confirm that there is merit to this? Mr. Polly? Yes, I heard them talk about the FBI matter. There you are, you little rat! Uh-oh. Ah! No! They're still playing hide and seek in the gallery? Well, it seems he's currently too busy to go into detail, but that should have given it some backing, I hope. We will listen to the rest of it first, then. Mr. Kova was stationed here for one specific reason. After the previous tenant of this place was exposed as a criminal, suspicions grew that he had stolen government secrets. Was he in a position to do that? How could that happen? He had apparently been a special agent himself for a while. The important question is just what Dr. Lee had actually stolen. The Kova vaguely called it government secrets, which brings to mind confidential documents and the like. It seems that may have been a mistaken impression. Not sure I'm following. What exactly did he propose he took? Consider who we're talking about. It's likely these government secrets he stole were actually... Weapons or aliens? Weapons. There is no question that the government has some confidential weaponry. The JP Corporation would no doubt have been very interested in that. Unknown poison in particular should have been very attractive to those sophisticated hitmen. You're saying Dr. Leeds stole deadly weapons? How could the government let something like that happen? Oh no, I should not even be wasting my breath on this asinine drivel. This man is supposed to be an FBI agent. All he did was go on about the curse of this place. If it was me, I would have simply seized back what was rightfully mine. Well, some people do care about not looking like the bad guys. It's bad enough if someone simply took some confidential documents. We're talking about weapons being given straight into the hands of a criminal organization. That's pretty much state-sponsored terrorism. They had to make sure it didn't get out. No way! I couldn't be that incompetent, surely. This is why I don't pay taxes. Order. I know this is quite the claim, but please remain quiet. What you say is true, Miss Chase, that I am unsure what Mr. Kova's aim was. Is Reaper's Curse an actual government cover-up? I do believe a cover-up took place, but I don't think Mr. Kova killed those people. Lillian would have picked up on that. I believe we should take another look at it. Because what I just suggested can actually easily solve this curse. The illusions of grandeur have no limits, do they? It may be no challenge to me, but... do you seriously expect us to believe you can explain away 2 locked room cases that simply? Hard to call it a challenge now that we know the police were tweaking the facts. We're now detective working for Alethea was apparently looking into them as well. I happen to have his notes right here, together with the official police reports. If we use this as a basis, it's pretty obvious that they hid something. Very well. The court accepts this into evidence. No matter what, this is bound to be another blow to the reputation of the police. These sorts of things will further erode the trust in the justice being carried out. Dark age of the law! They may have let a killer get away. I don't completely disagree. But to understand what they may have done, we must consider what the objective was. Their aim was to hide the true nature of these incidents. It's an intriguing choice of words, Miss Chase. Please elaborate. At a glance, these 2 incidents look like locked room murders. However, we've got to take a look at the bigger picture here. Disregarding the exact circumstances, 2 people visited the tower and then wound up dead in their homes later. Combine this with my proposal that they were confidential government weapons hidden here. It's highly likely these incidents were actually... Actually murders, right? I'm gonna read through the notes quick. So let's talk about this for a second. So number 1, torn throat, fatal damage trachea. Discovered his house by a neighbor. Piece of the living room. Large animal, bird of prey. Torn throat. Should have been a bigger mess. Where'd the rest of his throat go? As his entrance was surrounded by sand. That's fucking weird. Nature burns. Yes, Smithers. The victim was found in his burn home. Victim for fire. Entrance is locked. No forceful entry. Big mess. No indication of foul play. Home was in disarray. Poor visited the lighthouse on the same day. Came away with something that gnawed his throat off. Minnow entered a few weeks before the fire. Or too tidy for animal attack. There's a chest on the table near the victim. Where was it now? Minnow, debris. Chest had the key. Clue. No, I said earlier that it was accident. No, I said earlier that it was murders, but were they actually accidents? They visited the tower, came away with something. Whatever they came away with, they fucked up handling and it killed them in their house. A series of unfortunate accidents. Nobody's actually responsible for these murders. How could that be possible? There definitely lies some blame with this man. He stole deadly weapons and substances from the government and hid them in this place. Then after he's gone, people were free to visit this tower and walk all over it. Touching things, perhaps even secretly taking something. Oh, this is after he was gone, so they... Like, these guys literally just showed up and, like, plundered. With things like lethal poison around, that's an accident waiting to happen. Do you even know about the particularities of these two incidents? Because neither of them are remotely explained by your suggestion of poison. No worries, I remember quite well. I never said poison was the only kind of weapon involved. If I remember correctly, the first incident happened 4 years ago. Alright, time to use what's written in this as a basis to present something coherent. It's hardly enough info to avoid all leaps, so I just have to go with plausibly applicable options. Saul Poe was found dead in his home with his throat ripped out. No weapons were found in the house, and there were no signs of anyone else entering or leaving. Most of this was confirmed to be correct. The first discoverer was likely just another local. The only doubtful part is their assessment of the wound. They likely didn't take too close a look. We should just say he had a pretty bad-looking wound at the front of his neck. The only question is, what could have caused a large wound without leaving a weapon behind? Ooh, we got... ice knife, acid, carbon nanotube. I want to pick carbon nanotube just because that's a Nirvana Initiative reference. Pretty sure it's acid. Carbon nanotubes could do the job. I have no idea what you just said. Just imagine a very thin string. So thin that it cannot be seen with your bare eyes. String. You have to be jesting. That's your military-grade government weapon, a string. Hey, it pulled across a neck. I'm sure it could cut into it. But something that thin doesn't really sound like it could cause the kind of wound described. Should have given the impression of a sliced neck, not a completely destroyed throat. Oh, right. Wouldn't this require some elaborate setup at the house to work? Or could this be an accident? Strings are versatile? Alright, I think we can safely reload. Alright, yeah, we can safely reload. Acid. Some kind of strong acidic substance must have been involved. Oops, I still have this open here. Sorry about that. Acidic substance. You mean those chemicals they always warn you about? Indeed. If strong enough acid got on someone's skin, it'll burn right through. It definitely looked like someone ripped your throat out if it got on your neck. The detective noted that the room didn't end up too messy. Plus, the rest of the throat was nowhere to be seen. It makes sense if it dissolved. How in the world did you propose it got there by accident? Quite simple. It was stored in some item that the victim took from the tower. The chest that was taken by the police, to be precise. It was rigged to spray out the acid when opened. That would do it. Who would keep something like that around? Do I need to remind you who this person was? It could have been a device that was meant to be used on one of his hitman targets. It's also possible he kept traps like that around as bait or because he thought it'd be fun. I see. It slipped my mind just how twisted of a human he was. After what I have heard about him, I certainly couldn't put this past the man. That's the explanation for this death, then. This also happened in the same years as my article was published. Chances are this is what got the FBI involved in the first place. By the time they mobilized, it was too late. Somebody had already died to the stolen weapons. Their next best move was to cover it up and make it sure it wouldn't keep happening. Fortunately, another incident occurred only a year later. A second death. Someone burned to death in his own house at night. All entrances locked. This is what will make your entire hypothesis fall apart. Neighbors spotted the killer, a hooded figure with a sign. Why do you insist on that now? Didn't you yourself dismiss Mr. Poley's sighting as just him being mistaken? It's highly likely the same happened here. Unless now Reapers can suddenly vanish from locked buildings. They didn't even see the person themselves, just the silhouette. And you think you can enlighten us as to what they really observed? No scythe was found in the building, nor anything resembling this Reaper. Is that so surprising? The place was on fire. It's possible whatever it was got destroyed. Madam Hypocrite. Victoria. Oh no, Miss Chase. What could have conveniently looked like the Reaper? You can think of something. Reaper-shaped statuette? Maybe? The thing about shadows is that they can look bigger than the object that cast them. Appeared to be a human-sized Reaper was actually just a small statuette. Oh, interesting pieces of debris. I'm going to propose this fire was started. You wouldn't trip me up on that. It's simple. The fire was started by a... Was it a bomb? Match, cigarette, lens, or bomb? Bomb. Bomb. Convenient statue of a Reaper and a bomb. Why wasn't any of this found? Bomb wasn't found because it exploded. Statuette wasn't found because it exploded. It's a lot of things exploding. Meant to imply that they're the same thing, Your Honor. Explosion would explain the disarray in the room, which wasn't consistent with a simple fire. And there were some unexplained fragments of debris left. The statuette must have been filled with something highly flammable, like white phosphorus. We're assuming that both of them fell victim to something they took from the lighthouse. I heard a rumor that a certain statuette of Thanatos was in this tower. Perhaps this poor victim found and took what he believed to be it.
Seriously?
You absolute Philistine. How can you be so ignorant about Greek mythology? Oh, really? The Greek god of death predates any depiction of a grim reaper. I never claimed otherwise. Thing is, the victim likely didn't know that and took it anyway. Which is probably exactly what its creator hoped for. A creator? You mean to say this statuette was meant to trick someone? I'm certain of it. It's just the kind of thing the man would do. He enjoyed setting up tests and experiments, deceiving people into ruining themselves. A fake statuette plus a rumor. To see who would take the bait. Can't put it past a man like that. Unbelievable. Could we even call something like that an accident? It might have been the charitable way to put it. Because the true Reaper behind these incidents is already presumed dead. However, regardless of whether he's dead or alive, he left a curse behind him in this lighthouse. Yeah, tons of cursed objects which are really chaotic evil Mythbuster straps. Wasn't anything supernatural like a ghost with a scythe. The things left behind were deadly weapons, hidden in ways that might claim the lives of anyone too greedy or curious. Making a refund. That lady was scamming us with these things. Resume the auction. I want all the murder weapons. Has the same energy as handling deadly snakes, in my book. Order, this is still only a hypothesis. Look at what you've done. I should sue you again for slander. Now it'll be hard to sell anything else. I wouldn't worry. These are always a few crazies out there that'll still take it. May just be a theory. I think there is a very obvious step to verify this. Check the auction items again to see if any of them show signs of being booby-trapped. You can't seriously be suggesting we have to go through them all again. We didn't set any of them off previously. When Celis went through them first time. If my theory is right, chances are good we'll find something. If we do, I'd say that's strong evidence in favor of my claims. You've got to object to this waste of time. I object to this waste of time, as it's colossally likely to be one, not because she told me to do it. Objection overruled. Might as well make sure now. So I need to work my way through all the auction items a second time. How inefficient. You should have told me to do a full analysis the first time around. What exactly do you want me to search for? Your query is remarkably vague. Well, dangerous weapons can be hidden in many ways. Just check for anything unusual. Very helpful. Can't promise anything with such subjective parameters. He just has to find something. Anything. If I can find solid evidence for this part, a huge turnabout might just be within my reach. Alright, are we gonna get screwed again? That was a longer wait than expected, but it seems the results are in. What's the verdict, Dr. Hellinger? Nothing. I'll get directly to the point. There's only one object that showed any anomaly. Anomalty. This statue of the Thinker appears to actually have some mechanism inside it. Wait a moment. I think I recognize this. How did that get here? It's a clock, right? There's an internal clock and a speaker involved. Still, I'm unable to ascertain that, as the batteries have been removed. How did that get here? A clock. This is the ultimate reward for your misguided efforts. As I predicted, a colossal waste of my precious time. Waited more than an hour for this. The report isn't complete yet. Notable that one of the wires inside this device has been damaged. I don't see how that could have happened. Correct. It should have been well protected, so I posit the damage was deliberate. I closely examined the area around this wire and found something highly irregular. And that's the primary reason for the length of this investigation. It was quite difficult to determine what it was. Yes, now we're getting somewhere. Well, don't keep us waiting. What is it you found? If I were superstitious, I might have presumed you have the devil's luck. It's a microscopic amount, but I found traces of... hexanitro, aza, iso, wurtzitane. Hexanitro, aza, I'm going to say this in one shot. When I say this in one shot, the video ends. Hexanitro, aza, wurtzitane. Hexanitro, aza, iso, wurtzitane. Boom.